Macmillan Audio presents Sucker Punch, written and read for you by Scaachi Koul. For Mom, obviously. Samsara, cycling aimlessly through existence. I liked being antagonized by him. He knew exactly what to do. Karolina Václaviak, Life Events. Parvati stands in flames. It was boring to talk to God. Any of them, really. At the mandir, my mother would drag me around the main hall to pray to whoever was on deck. We went on Sunday mornings, my sole childhood obligation and my most dreaded one. Forced into stiff salwars, pushed to play with kids I didn't like, required to eat Indian food for lunch, meaning 2 square meals of my day dedicated to rice and dal, and here's where I would shudder for maximum effect, bindi. Prayer was a kind of one-way conversation from what I could tell from my mother's performance of religion. The temple was in a remote part of town, a burned orange building with not even a nearby Max to sneak off to for a 5-cent Coke bottle candy. Inside, the hall was awash in a pink carpet with a red runway to the main deity statues. And, of course, the large, clear donation box where you could see how much or how little our congregation cared about the gods. My dad entered our mandir with the authority of someone gracing a party with his presence. He walked gut first into the room and sat on the men's side of the carpet, ready for some forgettable chit-chat and maybe a quiet nap in the back of the hall. Of all the issues I had with going to mandir, I was mostly offended that my much older brother never had to perform any penance. "Why don't you have to go to temple, but I do?" I asked him when I was 6 and he was 18, when I was several feet shorter than him, my frontal lobe still predominantly soup. "Just blessed, I guess," he said, pushing me aside and going to his room, then barricading the door to keep me out. And so, my mother would cart me around the mandir to perform the entire family's worth of religious ablutions. It was a lot of pressure. First, we'd visit Ganesh, who was addressed on matters of finances and luck and prosperity. My mother would leave the requisite prasad, almonds, sugar cubes shaped like uncut diamonds, an unpeeled orange, a lit candle. Hands pressed together, she'd mumble to herself something intended just for her and the inexplicably Caucasian elephant she was talking to. Then she'd leave flower petals at Sita's and Krishna's feet, a couple whose marriage was cemented by Sita's dedication to her husband and to her purity. My mother would pull her chunni, kosher for a dupatta, over her head, pious in the same form. My eyes would wander while hers were closed. We only lingered for a minute or 2 per deity, but they were the longest minutes of my life. I was not permitted to eat the sugar cubes while I waited, like an obedient, bored horse. But the main event was at the display at the front of the hall, behind the donation box at the end of the red carpet. A large installation the size of a small playground, on white steps that were cleaned daily, gleaming under spotlights and posed in front of draped curtains with gold tinsel sewn in. There were always fresh flowers and fresh fruit. "Do they spend all the money on coconuts and grapefruit?" I asked once, which made my dad laugh, meaning I would not get in trouble even if my mom pinched my arm like a crab. The display presented a few deities showered in gold and fine silks, white skin, why were they always white, and red lips. Among the exhibit were 2 of the most revered gods according to my mother's prayers, Shiva and Parvati, parents to Ganesh, the center of the religious universe my mom was passively teaching me. Here, at the feet of this altar, my mom would kneel down, grabbing my arm and yanking me down too, before stuffing a few bills in the donation box and then pressing her forehead against the carpet. I pantomimed it with her and thought about how the soles of my feet and the crack of my butt were exposed. I was convinced that, surely, one of the Pugdy boys I had a crush on would take this opportunity, in my faux worship, to kick my ass. Literally. What was she saying over there, curled over her knees in a kind of child's pose, muttering to herself again? I'd lift my head up for a glimpse at the gods and always lingered on Parvati's face. She looked blissed out, like someone who knew the world's secrets. Her altar was full of crisp apples, marigolds, waxy cashews, holy water. Parvati would have known what my mom was saying. My mom was talking to her all the time. Shiva is one of the principal Hindu...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?